Get ready for some upbeat banter, plenty of laughs, and a whole lot of love for the game and our team. This is Buds and Blue Jays. And now your hosts, Riley McConnell and Jesse Burrell.
Oh, good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 168 of Buds and Blue Jays, your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. I'm your host, Jesse Burrell, joined as always by my co-host, Riley McConnell. And Riley, we did it. The 10-game road trip to begin the season is officially done as the Blue Jays are battling in the Bronx right now. Caveat, we are recording this episode just before the third game of the series does go final as, hey, we're busy guys. We got a lot of stuff going on. We got stuff we've got to do. Sometimes this is how it's going to be. Riley, but before we get into the game recaps, before we get into a lot of the major storylines that took place this series, how you feeling, my guy? How do you feel about this Toronto Blue Jays team right now?
Oh, Jesse, there's a lot of mixed feelings about how I feel about the Blue Jays team, and I think how quite a few people feel. I think that there's a huge kind of question mark on some of the pitchers right now, and I will get into some names later in the episode. Some guys who were throwing well last year and not really. Guy who you thought was maybe going to have troubles this year looked pretty good on the bump, and then as far as the hitting goes, obviously we know the Houston series did not go well for the bats. We warmed up the bats, but just a touch. This was not a series where we were hitting the cover off the ball by any stretch of the imagination. And you got to remember, it is Yankee Stadium. I mean, some of these hits don't, fall the same way. Top of the order looked okay, but Jesse, it's kind of frightening. It looks like while this game is going on, we are behind. It looks like we're going to finish the road trip 4-6, which is not ideal. We were talking about this 5-5. That would have been acceptable. I feel like 4-6 record going back to Rogers Center. Not the best way to start the year.
4-6, though, isn't terrible for this Toronto Blue Jays team, and it does feel like we have played worse than that record shows it should be, so I guess it could be worse than that. But let's get into the game recaps and tell the people at home, in case you weren't able to watch these games, what exactly happened. Game 1 of the series, the Jays got off to a right foot. They win this game 3-0. Yusei Kikuchi had a much-needed bounce-back start, and this one was able to throw 5 1/3 shutout innings. The offense continued to struggle and relied on a pinch hit go-ahead home run by Ernie Clement in the 6th. Chad Green, Jimmy Garcia, and Trevor Richards held on the door in relief, and the Blue Jays scored 2 runs in the top of the 9th thanks to some wild relief pitching by the New York Yankees, and Chad Green got the save, his first of the season, to win this game 3-0. In the second game of the series, the Jays lose this one 9-8, and Kevin Gausman had his worst start as a Toronto Blue Jay. He allowed 6 runs, 5 of them earned to cross the plate, and was only able to get 4 outs. The velocity was way down on Kevin Gausman's pitches, too. We'll touch on that a little later in this episode. The Jays' offense finally broke out a little bit in this one, but it was all way too little too late. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. did hit his second home run of the season in the defeat, but the comeback effort fell a little bit short in the 9th. And Game 3, which is currently in progress, we are on our way into the top of the 8th inning right now, but the Blue Jays find themselves in a 6-3 hole. We've had men on base all night. In fact, Alejandro Kirk has come up twice with the bases loaded, but has only been able to muster 1 RBI. And unless something dramatic happens here in the final 6 outs of the games, it looks like the Blue Jays might be on the losing end of this one, which would give us a 4-6 record in the AL East. And although a lot of games are not final so far, that would put us in 5th and in last place in the division right now, Riley. So a lot of storylines to touch on here. We're positive people over here at Buds and Blue Jays, so we want to start with something on the positive side. Take it away, Riley. Who gets your first thumbs up for this series and the series in the Bronx?
I think that you got to look at some light spots on this team early on in the year if we are going to go under 500. And I think it comes from, my first thumbs up comes from kind of the trenches of this team, the bench guys. Ernie Clement has kind of rose to the occasion in a lot of ways. This is very unexpected. I'll be honest. This guy kind of reminds me of, the infielders we've had, the backup infielders the Jays have had, from a John McDonald to a Ryan Goins, that is just kind of a fan favorite. You love him. He works hard. And I feel like Clement has gotten a little bit of luck at the dish, but some timely hits. And we need guys that are able to follow up in the clutch. Maybe if Ernie Clement isn't, a top 10 hitter on this Blue Jays team, he certainly has shown that he can put bat on ball in the bigger situations. And I think that's great. I don't know what kind of trajectory Ernie Clement has in Major League Baseball, but the way he's playing right now, he should be an everyday guy for the Jays. Don't take him out of the lineup. He's hitting. He's very athletic in the field. He's a great guy to have right now. We need players like this. And in fact, he's kind of leading the team in some aspects for being, a guy who could have been a career minor leaguer.
Yeah, Ernie Clement coming off that really strong string and has really taken the ground running so far to begin this season. Look, he had a pinch hit home run, and I think after he hit the home run, he got starts in both Game 2 and Game 3. Not having a so great Game 3 right now, but he had 2 doubles in Game 2 as well, and this guy's hitting 6. For a Blue Jays team that is really struggling to drive in runs, Ernie Clement has been providing you some extra base pop, and maybe it's a mirage, maybe it doesn't last, but you've got to ride the hot hand while you can right now, and I want to see more of Ernie Clement going forward. The problem is, Riley, like Isaiah Kiner-Falefa signed a contract to play every day. We're still struggling how to get Davis Schneider in the lineup all the time. Kevin Biggio has played against every single right-handed pitcher we've played against so far this year. Like, who sits? Is it Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, right?
That's honestly what I thought as well, especially for the bat in hand, because there's not a ton wrong with the defense of a guy like Clement or a Davis Schneider, and you have to play the bats. Everyone 1 through 9 should be able to hit in this day and age in Major League Baseball. The players that bat 8th or 9th in the order that are just there for their defensive capabilities are kind of to the wayside. Everyone's got to hit in the order. Ernie Clement's been hitting. He's got to be in that batting order. IKF, we knew this coming in. We knew that he wasn't going to be a guy that hits well for us, and he hasn't. Defense is perfectly fine, well above average. If anything, could be elite. But we need Ernie Clement in over him because we need to get bat on ball. We need to, with those runners that are on base, or if he's setting himself up to be that runner on second base with nobody out, with 1 out, to get himself cashed in, it doesn't matter. Ernie Clement's doing both of those things. We need him on this in a spot in the order, whether it's 6th, whether it's 9th, I don't care. We need his bat while it is hot.
I think what the Blue Jays should do is take Kevin Kiermaier out of the lineup, and we'll talk a little bit about him later on in this episode here. Shift Dalton Varsho to center for full time. Maybe you can put Davis Schneider in left, and that way you can play one of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, one of Kevin Biggio, one of Ernie Clement almost every day, which I think gives the Blue Jays the best chance of winning going forward here. But let's move on to some other offensive performances or other players that really stood out for us this series. And I want to throw some love to my boy, Yusei Kikuchi, who came in and set the ground running in the first game of the series. 5 1/3 innings pitch, no earned runs allowed, did walk 2, but did get 7 strikeouts as well. And the thing I love to see most about Kikuchi in this start is he was actually able to locate that fastball down to the glove side, which was something in that series against Tampa he was really struggling with. He was missing a lot up and away. And I thought, oh no, maybe this is a concern. Maybe hitters can get a hold of this or whatever. But Yusei Kikuchi did not do that in this start. And I thought the results came in and mattered. He got some good quality pitches to Juan Soto, to Aaron Judge to get them out. And if this is the Yusei Kikuchi we're seeing, the guy who still has some of the best stuff in the left side in all of Major League Baseball, I think it's a good thing for the Toronto Blue Jays going forward. And I was very encouraged for this start by the kid Kikuchi. Do you have a thought on him, or do you want to go straight to your next thumbs up?
Just quickly on him is that, pleasantly surprised, especially, the outing we got from Kevin Gausman. I think that giving up 0 runs is very important. We walk away 3-0. It's important that we do that. We started off the series right. We know that series not going great for us now. But, Jesse, one thing, I will segue this into our next one.
Yep.
We're going back home to Toronto against the Seattle Mariners, who are a very good team pitching-wise. And unfortunately, our hitters have a tall task ahead of them. I'm going to give kind of a lucrative thumbs up to Vladdy and Bo for putting up extra base hits in this series. They were 0 for 10, I think you said, in
game 2, I think it was. Game 1, maybe?
Game 1. We walked away with the win anyways. We scored 8 runs. They were a part of that. So, Jesse, and obviously we can't go back. We can't, take away the line score, the box score of this game. If Gausman doesn't have the start that he did, we walk away with the win. And a big contributor is Vladimir Guerrero Jr., is Bo Bichette, is George Springer, the top of our lineup, actually doing kind of what they're supposed to do. Unfortunately, you score 8 runs in a ball game, you expect to win. We were playing from behind. We actually, closed that gap in an incredible amount. In fact, the tying run was on base in the top half of the ninth, where, we inevitably lost that game 9-8. Those are tough ones, but a small ray of sunshine in all of that, and in, in a 9-8 loss, is that our big boys, we're swinging the bat well, and we're actually driving in runs.
Yeah, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with the second home run of the season. He was giving the hush sign, too, as he was running around the bases, which I guess for some reason drove some New York media and some New York people wild. But whenever anything good happens to the Toronto Blue Jays, it'll drive them wild anyway. I also want to throw some love to George Springer, who had a leadoff double in Game 1 of the series and a leadoff double in Game 2 of the series. But I guess this is kind of segmenting into our first thumbs down, I guess. He was not able to score on either one of them, as both with runners on second base and nobody out, they were not able to score. And I want to talk a little bit about the Blue Jays' clutch hitting here, because hitting has been a problem in the whole time. And as Jesse Turiso pointed out in our audience here, that the Blue Jays and clutch base hits is rarer than a steak can be sometimes. And we agree with you on that. But I've been keeping track of the runners in scoring position numbers over the past few games. And in this series, it did not get any better. Game 1, Riley, Jays were 0 for 6 with runners in scoring position. Game 2, the Jays had 17 occurrences with runners in scoring position, only got 4 hits. And in Game 3 so far, the Blue Jays are just 1 for 7. That's 5 for 30, almost 5 for 30 with runners in scoring position so far in this series. Simply will not do. You are not going to get good results without that hitting like that. And it's the same thing we had last year. Guys are having uncompetitive bats. Guys are not putting things together. The guys just don't seem to have it. And I don't know how you fix this if you're the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, that equivalates to a 167 batting average.
Yeah, not good enough.
If not good enough, not only is that not good enough, I'm going to assume, Jesse, not having the other 29 teams' numbers in front of me, but probably close to the bottom. In fact, I would almost want to say it's top 5 worst.
I'll look that up. Give me a second.
You can. And I'll just say this. It's unfortunate. I feel like there is an element of clutch that we simply don't have in it. It's unfortunate. Because, and I don't know what, and I felt like I should have looked this up before, but our run differential is not good either this year. We got blown out.
Yeah, we were bottom 5 in baseball coming into the series, and it's only gotten worse as the series has gone on.
It's definitely only gotten worse, and it's a good thing that we did, come around and score 5 runs and draw that Game 2 to 1 run. Who knows what's going on now? You have the game right in front of you, but 6-3, not great, obviously. And I feel like this series could have gone a lot better for us. It's unfortunate the start Gausman had. It's great to see what Kikuchi did. And then, obviously, Bowden Francis did not have his best stuff. The wheels kind of fell off after 2 innings. We need better plate appearances. I feel like, yes, it's unfortunate our starting pitchers. We're essentially 1 for 3 in the series with quality starts. However, Jesse, we still need to do better in almost all facets in the game as far as hitting goes.
Yeah, just looked it up, Riley. The Jays are 26th in baseball in batting average with runners in scoring position. The only teams behind them, Minnesota, the White Sox, the Mets, and your lowly Oakland Athletics. That is how bad it has been for the Toronto Blue Jays hitting in the clutch so far this year. So, I don't want to be that guy because all these games are important, but I will say it's early. We haven't played a home game yet, but it's all the same things we've been talking about all offseason that have been a struggle for the Toronto Blue Jays are showing themselves again here as the series goes on. And you really wanted to see things change with Don Mattingly and all that stuff going forward. But let's move on to other stuff. We will touch about that, but we do need to talk about the starting pitching performance, particularly that of Kevin Gausman here. Riley, he only went 1 1/3 innings pitched, 5 earned runs. The walks were up. The strikeouts were there. The velocity was down significantly for Kevin Gausman. And I have the numbers here. Normally, he sits about 94, 95 with the fastball. He was much slower than that in this one. His fastball was sitting 91.4. The splitter was down to 82.3 when it's usually about 86. And even his one slider was down 5.5 miles per hour. Riley, you never want to see a sharp velocity dip kind of out of nowhere, especially after his velocity all looked good in his first spring start in Tampa this year. Now, it was cold in New York at the Bronx. People were all dressed up. People were wearing a lot of covering. So maybe that has something to do with it. But George Springer was slowed down, or not George Springer, Kevin Gausman was slowed down this spring because of shoulder fatigue. And now he's here in the Bronx and his velocity is coming down with the rage or the uptick of pitcher injuries that have gone across all of Major League Baseball so far. Are we concerned that there is maybe a serious health problem here with Kevin Gausman going forward? What's
I
your
don't
take on this?
I don't know about a serious issue. I don't think it is a serious issue. I think that I'm sure he was dealing with something minor and kind of turned the situation upside down where he could have very well had an average start. I feel like he probably went into the game not at 100%. Whether the
Mhm.
Yankees were on or not, Gosman did not have his best stuff. I don't think he struck a batter out. I don't think he got very many swings and misses, two, if any. Um, and his pitch locations weren't even that good. I mean, we know what Kevin Gausman can do, the low fastball, the kind of disguising the splitter, if you will, and then using the changeups into right-handed batters. A lot of
Mhm.
swinging over the top is kind of what he did, but they were squaring Kevin Gausman up and not putting the ball on the ground. They were putting the ball in the air against a Kevin Gausman that wasn't throwing hard. It was concerning because you never want to see your ace get lit up like that. And the fact is the numbers were very poor, and you hope that he was dealing with something, and this isn't what we're going to get this year. I don't think it is. Spoiler alert. But you also
Good.
kind of
Good.
have to
Yep.
wonder, what was he due for this? We don't know. Is a start like this going to happen again? It very well could. We predicted, Jesse, kind of a step back year for Gosman, and I think that that's probably going to happen. Are we going to see more starts like this? I certainly don't think there are going to be many, especially starts where he doesn't get out of the second inning. He just didn't have it in this game. You hope he's only dealing with something minor.
Yeah, that's the big thing. If it is not a shoulder or an arm or an elbow problem for Kevin Gausman, then he is going to be in a good spot and he's going to be okay. For what it's worth, his comments after the game, he didn't seem too worried about it, but I never like to see sharp velo declines from your pitchers. It's always a scary sign and something you never want to see. So we will see going forward how this means of Kevin Gausman. I will have all eyes on his next start when he makes it later this week. I guess we can use this time to talk about the other starting pitcher that pitched in this series, Bowden Francis. Riley, 2 good innings to start and then lost some control in the third. He had a bunch of walks. He ended up walking an 8-pitch battle to Anthony Volpe, who walked and gave up a run. And then he gave up a grand slam to Giancarlo Stanton, which never feels good. But from what I saw, the pitch didn't look like it was terrible. But if Stanton still has a hot zone, it's able to turn on that pitch inside, which is exactly what he did to Bowden Francis. And that kind of put the wind in the sails a little bit. You get out of that inning, maybe it's a completely different ball game, but falling down 5-1 early put us in a hole, and we're going to the 9th now, and we're still down 6-3. So seems tough. That is 2 subpar starts and a lot of home runs given up for Bowden Francis. Riley, at what point do you think we should try to move on and put a different guy in the starting rotation?
So I wasn't really the biggest guy on starting Francis, but I don't think we were left much of a choice with who
Right.
we had. We almost had to go and say Bowden Francis has looked decent. In fact, he's going to be on this major league roster. Now the question is it's kind of was between Mitch White. Manoah, I think, was a long shot to begin with, and then he had no chance of making the roster with the injury, whatever that you want to call it, that he was dealing with. So you kind of have to give that 5th spotter start to Bowden Francis, and unfortunately, he's just not a quality starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. I mean, yes, the velocity at times looks good. I mean, his breaking stuff is fantastic. And when he can locate pitches, I think that he's a perfect guy to give you two middle innings. But that's exactly it. But move those 2 middle innings to the start of that the ball game, the first and second. I mean, I think he had 5 strikeouts through the first 2 innings. He looked really good.
Lots of whiffs too. Yep.
Lots of good whiffs and a good pitch mix. And then ran into problems with command. I don't know if his role on this team is going to change, overnight. But essentially, I can't see him being in this 5th starter spot for too much longer. I think that he will get his next scheduled start. And then if it goes sort of similar, I think that you really have to reconsider and move him and try something. Whether that's going to an opener or, having that kind of bullpen day. I don't love to chew up the bullpen. I think that we've already done that on the road, 1 day off in 10 games. So 10 games in 11 days. We've used the bullpen. We used it again today. And we're not going to get that day off when we're going home to play the Mariners. I can't even remember who's on the bump for us tomorrow.
Brios is on the mound tomorrow.
I hope he goes 8 innings because he needs to.
Yeah.
Our bullpen is used up, and it's not all on Bowden Francis. He was put into this role. He doesn't have a high enough ceiling. He doesn't have enough MLB experience. And let's face it, the Yankees in Yankee Stadium are always a tough team to pitch against. It just hasn't. Nothing has matched up for Francis to start the year, and I imagine they're going to take him out of the starter role if we see some similar starts like today, like the first appearance.
Yeah, the problem is, unless you're putting Trevor Richards back in there, which I don't think any of us think is going to happen, or else you're deciding you want to put Mitch White in a starting pitching appearance, which maybe, but I also don't think that's going to happen. Then your real only options are waiting for Alek Manoahs to come back, who we'll touch on a little bit later, stunk in his first rehab appearance today. Or you're giving that spot right away to Yariel Rodriguez, who looked very good in his first appearance in Buffalo. We talked on that last episode. But do you want to continue his development plan, or do you just want to throw him right into the fire? I think that's the decision the Toronto Blue Jays have to make. And of course, Ricky Tiedemann, who we don't think is quite ready yet to take the big league stage. In terms of the bullpen, though, I do want to touch on that. Well, you brought that up. Look, Mitch White did pitch good in relief of Bowden Francis, or in relief of Kevin Gausman, sorry. So I do want to mention that. Jimmy Garcia has continued to look like nails coming out of that bullpen. He pitched really well. Trevor Richards, every time he pitches, I want to point out his changeups for strike percentage, over 50% in game one, and he struck out the side. Do not think that is an accident. And the Blue Jays did make a roster move, actually, Riley. We did designate for assignment Wes Parsons, who is no longer on this team, and we called up Paulo Espino, who made one start in Buffalo, 6 shutout innings, I believe it was. Maybe it was 5. And he came in, he pitched here in game 3, covering for Bowden Francis, and actually pitched well in this one as well. So maybe you put him into the starting rotation, give him a little bit of a run. But I want to give some props to our bullpen because they did pretty well here in this series.
They've had a tall task, Jesse. It's almost been unfair. But your job isn't fair or unfair. Unfortunately, it's unfair when you get thrown into a ball game like Garcia did, and have 2 runners on, and then you get 3 consecutive outs and not let them score. You feel bad for a guy if they give up those runs. It's charged to the guy that got taken out of the game. There is, the pitching clutch of it. Unfortunately, I think our bullpen has stood kind of the eyeball test to start the year as a whole. I like that Wes Parsons is there. No disrespect to him. He's just not an MLB arm. He never really was cut out. I don't know why we had him on our opening day roster to begin with, but we move on. And I can't imagine Paulo Espino is going to start. I do like that he came into this game in game 3 today as an option to go more than 1 inning. I think that's important. I think the Jays have a couple guys like that. It's been tough to be a base relief arm, especially with the absence of Jordan Romano and Eric Swanson. It's a tall task right now. It's a tall task, Jesse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to point out that Wes Parsons DFA'd. His stuff plus numbers still look good. I do think he's going to be a big league arm at some point, but I just don't think it's at that point yet. And Tim Meza, too. He pitched in the game 3 here today. His numbers were down still on his fastball. He still didn't have that juice in there, and I want to see that come back up before we get more to Meza. Yankees just added on another run here in the bottom of the 8th. It is now 7-3, so it does look like the Blue Jays are going to fall to 7-6, barring something crazy in the top of the 9th inning here. And some 3 other things, Riley, and just get to these very quickly. 3 more points, I guess, talking points that caught my attention this series. First one, I don't want to see Alejandro Kirk hitting 4th in this lineup ever again. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that he's hitting in that spot. And then 2 more things. The decision not to pinch run for Daniel Vogelbach in game 2 might have cost us the win there because there was a bobble at shortstop and he didn't quite make it to second base. Maybe if Biggio is running, then that is a different story, and maybe the Blue Jays sneak out a win in game 2. And then the catcher's interference call that happened in game 2. The ball was already in Alejandro Kirk's glove when Volpe decided to swing, and he got it, and he was ruled the catcher's interference, but I think it was one of the biggest bullshit calls in baseball. But those 3 points, Riley, Kirk, the Vogelbach pinch run, and the catcher's interference. Do you have a quick thought?
Yes, catcher's interference. I'll correct you. It was Brian Servin.
You're right.
It's okay. I feel like he made that situation very well aware to the umpire. I think that whatever the call is, got it right. Those are the rules. But it makes me think, Volpe threw the bat out. Like, you don't swing like that. That's not the bat path you take. You look at
Correct,
the replay.
yes.
It really ticked me off, especially at that point in the game. You know what? And to move on to the other thing in game 2 that was kind of the head scratcher was not pinch running. Like, I don't know when to pinch run, when not to pinch run. Vogelback has actually seen a lot of pitches in this series.
He has, which is good.
And I like that, to run up the pitch count. As far as performance goes, I mean, not great. He did have a double, I think, and that's other than that, not really a guy who's going to hit for a high batting average. Anyways, to take him out of the ball game, you're not actually. It's not like you're taking out a David Ortiz type hitter to get speed on the base pass. This is a move that could have been made, and then a double switch, whatever kind of situation. It's unfortunate. I don't think it cost us the game, but it definitely took the wind out of the sails at that point in the game.
And then in terms of the batting order, Riley, Alejandro Kirk hitting 4th in our lineup. How often do you think we'll see that again?
Not a fan.
Yeah, not a fan either.
No, I think that you can go different ways. Although the guy who is hitting 4th, Justin Turner. Side note: first game at third base started game 2. I think that's cool, because you were wondering where and when he was going to play defensively. He got the start at third base in game 2 in this series.
Looks good. We have a few injury updates here. Kevin Kiermaier was scratched in game 1 with lower back tightness, but was back in the lineup for game 3 here, so he seems to be okay. Just get that bat going a little bit, Kevin Kiermaier. Jordan Romano threw his second bullpen session, and Eric Swanson threw a live BP yesterday. Both went well. Next up for Romano is to do a live BP session himself, and if that goes well, right into rehab games for both of them. And Joey Votto is still doing defensive work, but his ankle is, quote, getting better, said John Schneider. But it's been over 3 weeks now since Joey Votto has been shut down with that ankle injury, and it still seems like he is a while from joining this team in the big leagues. And on the farm, Riley, some interesting things have been happening down in the minor league systems. The first one, Arun Namala, who was our Blue Jays first-round pick of last year. The Blue Jays gave him an aggressive placement, sending him to single-A Dunedin. He hit his first home run for the Dunedin Blue Jays, so congrats to him. Brandon Barriera, Riley, who appeared on our top 5 prospects that we did our prospect episode, pitched 1 1/3 innings and then immediately grabbed the elbow and went down to the mound in his start in the minor leagues, which cannot be good news for one of their top Blue Jays pitching prospects who already is kind of depleted. This seems like it could be a serious injury for Barriero, which might shut him down for a while, so we won't be getting anything from him this season. And then we do got to talk about Alek Manoahs, who had his rehab start for the Dunedin Blue Jays today. Riley, get ready for this. Here was his line. 1 2/3 innings pitched, 6 earned runs, 5 hits, 4 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. Did give up a home run. 58 pitches, but only 26 of them were strikes. That's less than half of them for strikes for Alek Manoahs. The delivery looked inconsistent as well. More of the same shittiness, for lack of a better word, for Alek Manoahs in his start here. Do you have a take on Manoah's start or any of those prospect injuries?
I'm so done with talking about Manoah right now.
Yeah.
I'm shutting that down. You said it right there. If you want to replay, 30 seconds ago and listen to Jesse reading out the line score and how he pitched, that's on you. It's as far as Barriera goes, I know that he is he's far away from making it to, even really AAA. So, I mean, the fact is it's going to screw with his development a little bit. And our first round picks, especially pitchers, just never catch breaks. We're cursed. We're cursed in that way. As far as Namala goes, playing single A and in hitting from a position, I'm assuming he's playing shorter second base.
Shortstop, I believe. Yep.
Yep. Not a power position. And an 18-year-old, could be 19 now, whatever.
He's young. He's very young.
He's 18 or 19. So it's good to see that traditionally not a power position is hitting for at least a little bit of pop, especially when you're before the age of 20 years old. So that's really good, really refreshing and inspiring to hear that.
All right, well, the good news is the road trip is over as the Blue Jays are taking their last hacks here in the top of the 9th. They're down 5, so it seems unlikely that they are going to come back and win this one. If they do, hey, we have something to talk about next series. But Riley, After this, the Blue Jays return home. We are heading back to the Rogers Center for the first time this year. It will be the Blue Jays home opener. I will be in attendance. I cannot wait to be there. If you see me, come say hello. We can talk Blue Jays baseball. I will likely be either at the hot dog porch having a hot dog, or I'll be at one of the many bars drinking a mojito, or several craft breweries that they have there. We're going to have some fun at the Blue Jays this series. 3-game series in Seattle. Riley, do you have a pick to click? Do you have a player to watch, something to look for in this series?
It's very scary to go against the Mariners. For the starting pitchers that are going for them, I think it's Castillo, Gilbert, and
George Kirby, I think, is the other one.
And George Kirby.
Yeah,
that's tough. My pieces to click to take 2 out of 3 is going to be Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. again, with a hint of a guy like maybe George Springer, timely hit. Dalton Varsho, I'd love to see him do something.
Let's see him get going.
For a guy who put bat on ball in the spring, he has certainly not done that this year. In fact, our lefty bats, maybe aside to Kevin Biggio, who has looked like one of our better left-handed hitters on this team. Certainly it's not our left-hitting everyday outfielders in Varsho and Kiermaier. It would be nice to see either of them do something in this series, but our big guns are really going to have to jump on these very good Mariners pitching for us to walk away with a win in this series.
Let's hope some home cooking is exactly what we need for the Toronto Blue Jays team. And let's hope it doesn't take till June for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to hit his first home run at Rogers Center, which is what happened last season. Let's see him get started hot and get off with a bang and get this offense finally going to the levels we know that it can be at. Until then, for Riley McConnell, I'm Jesse Burrell. Make sure you subscribe to the Buds and Blue Jays podcast on YouTube. We are on Spotify, TikTok, anywhere you can find your podcast, you can find the Buds and Blue Jays show. Please make sure to like and subscribe, tell a friend, all that good stuff, and stick with us to then. Until then, we'll see you guys next time. Let's go Blue Jays.
Thanks, guys.